Namaste, my friends. Namaste, namaste, namaste. Again, extension of today's yoga class with the breath. Oh my God, the breath. I can't stress how important the breath is and your relationship to it. So I began the yoga session in a yin, very yin way for like 20 minutes, just in the poses. And I was really just focusing on the inhales and trying to learn as much as I can about the point where the inhale starts and how it expands to be fulfilled. And then like the exhale, I was just like sort of leaving it. And so I was like really just focusing on the inhales in the beginning. And then my practice transformed into a very yang practice, a very flowy movement for like the next 20 minutes. And I was just like I was sweating, I was like doing all these poses, breath to movement, and just going super fast and like really just getting the heat up and really activating my whole body. And then this too, I was like kept coming back to the breath, to breathe. Inhale, what's the inhale like? All right, here I am, the inhale in this flowy pose. Like, how is it going? So I was just doing that. And then towards the last part, the last 20-ish minutes, I went back to yin, a very yin flow, and just laying down and just doing three poses. I did three poses in 20 minutes, so they each had like 7 minutes each. And that's including, yeah, not including Shavasana. And then during these last 20 minutes is when I was just getting a really good appreciation of my breath. I was just coming back to just thinking, I will do as much as I can when I become consciously aware that I'm being distracted. And that's the thing with like yin practices, is that your mind has way more ability to be distracted. Whereas like with flow, since you're moving so much and you always have to like be present, there's less chance for you to be distracted because you're not like sitting in one pose for too long. But in the yin, when you're holding a pose for like 5 minutes, 7 minutes, yeah, your mind gets way more distracted, because it's just sitting there doing nothing. And then just during these distractions, it was like, I'd have that moment where I catch myself and I'm like, oh, I'm distracted. I'm supposed to be focusing on my breath. And I go back to my breath and I realize that I must cherish these moments. These moments where I catch myself being distracted is when I am fully aware of myself and my being, and I'm able to control it. And all I do is like with humble ability, with like a little bit of seeking forgiveness for being distracted, and like just humbleness, coming back to the breath and like asking forgiveness, like, I am trying my best to be here, please excuse my flaws, my weaknesses, and my love, and it's like this opportunity to be clear is very important. Sometimes, like in my earlier practices, when I would catch myself being distracted, I would be a little bit irritated, like a little bit annoyed that I'm so distracted. And it's like I would be staining that purity of myself, of catching myself, of being fully aware of myself. I would stain that with my annoyance and my irritation and my inability to like focus on the breath and like to lose myself in distractions. But now I realize that's wasting that precious moment when you're like just fully aware. You're like distracted, thinking about whatever, and then you're like, oh wait, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And I'm supposed to be doing this. And it's like that moment you just catch yourself fully, like as you are. And so I found that when I come back to the breath with humility, and like more yin style things instead of like with annoyance and anger or something, it just really transforms the whole practice, like the whole relationship with the practice. And I just come back like understanding, yes, I had the intention to be with my breath the whole time, and yes, I am distracted, and this isn't showing my strength and my worth and stuff, because it's like, oh yeah, you can't do what you say you're doing. And it's like recognizing that and accepting that you have weaknesses. Like when you get annoyed, It's because you don't want to accept that you have a weakness. You want to like only be like, I am strong, and this is showing that I am not strong. Therefore, it is fighting my self-worth, and that's why you get annoyed. But when you become humble, and it's like you recognize that you have weaknesses and that you will be weak, but that you are going to try your best to overcome those weaknesses, that's like really just transforms the whole relationship with life and with yourself. And so I always just come back with the breath like, I'm sorry, like I'm trying my best. And it's like, it's much better. And so I was just doing that, and then that just led me to really appreciate and start loving my breath even more. Because what mixes in with that was that I had the thought that my breath supports me 24/7 for my whole life. It is always there for me. It is always there for me. And so in my practices, when I'm focusing on the breath, it's my intention to give back and to take care of my breath, and to be the one that like gives back to the breath, this thing that like just supports me through all of eternity, like through all of life. And here I am giving it support. And so it adds even more to my humbleness when I just remember that it's there for me all the time, and I'm going to be there in my best for my breath when I am doing my practices. So it's like I really just focus on my love for my breath and my gratitude that I have for it giving me life. And just that, just coming back and taking care of the breath and being with it. So it's like this attitude, those two things are really important. That moment that you catch yourself being distracted, you must have humbleness, and you have to be real and know that you are bound to be distracted. You are bound to not always, do it the way that it should be done. And that's totally all right. That is part of the whole freaking journey. And it's to love yourself in those moments, especially when you have that moment of full clarity, of like full understanding of what you're doing, and what's happening in your system. Those moments you must especially like be loving towards yourself and be understanding and be realistic and just really know what life is and what you are, and this is how it works. That moment, and just recognizing the reason why you're focusing on the breath, it's like to just give back, to this thing that has been giving you so much. And the funny thing is, the more you give back in your practice, the more you're aware of the breath in your practice, the more you cultivate your breath practice, the more benefits that you get throughout your life, the whole day. You feel much better, much calmer, much more energetic, just so many things that you get benefits out of. So it's like, but still you got to do it as an attitude of giving back to the breath instead of taking from the breath. Even, and as much as you give back to the breath is how much it will give back to you in your conscious sphere. So that's just the other thing about life, and the beauty of it all, and the breath. And in my ending, all right, namaste. I think I will end there.